What's up, everybody? It's your favorite Trucker's Hat's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at Maketoys Striker Manus from their Cross Dimension line. Now, we have a lot to talk about regarding that line. We're going to save that for the end of the video, but I was able to communicate with them a bit and kind of get some information because I had some questions. I think a lot of people out there have some questions, and I certainly did too. The good news is I got a lot of information, so we'll get there. Bear with me. I should say this is the first time, I think, that I've looked at a G1-esque Optimus Prime. So that's got to count for something, I think. Let's talk about this accessory first. We're going to talk about this later on in detail, but I don't know about this. It's gun-ish, but there's something about it that doesn't feel right to me with him. And it's fine enough. Like, there's different colors, plastics, and stuff, and it's kind of a necessary evil because it's involved in completing the truck. And he holds it just fine. He has the weapons groove, and it fits in there just like every, like the way that Maketoys usually rolls. So that's fine. But I don't know. I almost sometimes, like I've been looking at it, and I've been thinking to myself, like, maybe a shorter one makes me feel better, because then it kind of has, like, the general, what is it, Ion Blaster or whatever it is that he has, Ion Cannon. Is that Star Wars? I don't know. But that maybe I'll try that out for a bit. I'll tell you what, I'll try it out for a bit, and then we'll do it the other way in the final thoughts. How's that sound? He comes with two of these axes. There's good news and bad news regarding these. They look pretty cool. You can combine them. The fit isn't the best, but it will hold. It has this weapons groove, as do the guns and the hands. But this doesn't, I can't get this to fit as securely as the guns. Oh, there it is. Never mind. Never mind. Good. For the first time in my life, maybe, I got it to work on camera and couldn't get it to work off camera. So check me out. But yeah, you can have him hold it like that, or you can put one in. Let's give it a little bit more room. And combine this, and then he has like this double-sided weapon, which I do think looks pretty cool. But truthfully, I don't think many people will have him utilize that. Because the other thing that you can do with these is tab them on, and you can have these go in either way. So you can have the blades forward, or the blades backward. I think I like blades backward. I'll have to check and see how they do it on the box. And that kind of gives him his signature smokestacks. Now, we're going to talk about what makes a prime at the end. But I do feel like that adds something for him. So that's good. I'm happy with that. Don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm happy with it. So this has a very action figure element to it. And once again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but we're going to get to that in the final thoughts. The head, though, is on a ball peg. And I really feel like, it does a pretty good job, but what I really feel like, this would have just been my suggestion to them, and this is the final product as far as I know, is, and they wouldn't retool all this, and it's an engineering issue also, so I hear you. But if it was a double ball peg, into the head, into the chest, and I think that would have gotten you a little bit more motion. Now, as it is, it's better articulation than most figures of this size from most companies, and I get that. But the reason why a double ball peg I think would have been better is because this feels similar to me to SH Figuarts and Figma and toys of that caliber. And I think most of the time they use a double ball peg. But it's also because they have the I don't know what you want to call it, advantage of doing more human-esque characters, so they have a neck to hide that double ball peg in. Transformers don't have as much of a neck. So I get it, but that would have been a recommendation. So outside of that, we got blue paint on the eyes. We got, that's a silver piece of plastic, but it still looks good. And then we have silver paint on the blue, silver paint inside the blue. So that's 3 paint apps on the head, and it looks pretty good. Ball peg, single ball peg. Get you the swivel, no problem. Get you up to there and down to there. So the range of motion is still good. Just feel like it could have. That's a place where I feel like a double ball peg could have really done it some justice, so to speak. But still fine. All right. chest design. Another signature thing. Now we have a signature thing up here, which are the Optimus ears. We have two, and they're kind of not typical as we see them, but they still work as such, especially from the front. We have the windshield. We need that. That's a character element for Optimus Prime, and that's there. And then we have the grill. Not as much a character element, but arguably so, right? So first, just look how that chest cleans up and back cleans up. That's a pretty clean bot, kibble-wise. I might be, with the exception of these pieces, which aren't that bad, right? I would say that this is almost 100% kibble-free, which is pretty impressive. Now, what we have here, waist swivel and ab crunch to a pretty ridiculous level. Another thing I would have liked to have seen, much like the double ball peg, because we're talking super action figure, is the ab crunch to have worked in reverse as well, so we could have looked up. That would have been a nice thing. But we have the tinted blue windshield over the, looks like silver detailings underneath. So they didn't go with a clear windshield, they went with a blue windshield, which is one of the things that I've been preaching personally. So I'm taking credit for it, whether you like it or not. Then we have the shoulders. What we have here is, it feels like, I'm trying to figure out what goes into the joint, into the chest, but here it's a ball joint, and then it comes out to a hinge, so it acts like a universal, which is pretty smart, and it does a tremendous job articulation-wise. So you get the arm all the way up there, and you get the complete swivel, and it acts as a reverse butterfly, but you can't really get it to work, you know, across the chest. Well, yes, you can, just a little bit because of the ball joint, so that even gets you a little bit of a butterfly joint. So that's pretty good. Silver paint app there. If you take these off, silver paint apps there, and these did come wrapped. You know, I mentioned that I like that in that other Cybertronian Optimus, the Spark Toys Optimus, that they wrap some of the paint work, and they wrap that too, and I like that. Bicep swivel, it just shows a little pride. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbow. I thought, is it? Maybe it's a single joint. It must be a single joint. Still gets you past 90 degrees, so that's fine. Silver and gold paint on the forearms, and then a wrist swivel. The bottom three fingers on a base pin knuckle, and then the index finger on its own individually articulated base pin knuckle. Well, it's the same pin, right? It's just that it's a separate piece of plastic. So that all works fine. Same for the other side, except I didn't mention that there's silver paint here, which is like it's a piece that covers up in transformation, so to paint the other side of it is pretty cool. I'll give them that. We have these flip down in transformation, but you can, you know, if you needed to fill something out a little bit, you could manipulate them. Just not a big deal, just point it out. Alright, talked about the waist swivel. We got yellow paint there, that looks good. We have universal joints, friction universals for the hips. They get you out to there, so great range. Forward and back to there, so once again, pretty good range. Thigh swivel built into the bottom of the universal, so that works fine. Is that a... That's a double jointed knee, getting you the full Monty there, baby. So that works fine. And ankle tilt down a little bit up. Fair amount, I'd say, actually. Can you see that? So that's up. That's down. We got a little bit of a toe hinge in there. You can kind of cheat some stuff, but that's more transformation related. And what is this on? This is a hinge? Yeah. So that's a hinge to get you the ankle rocker. Detailings wise, we got the yellow breakup there, we have the silver paint, and then we have this little bit of breakup in there, silver paint on the inside. And that's this guy in a nutshell, and he's pretty efficient. There's a couple things, like if you would have asked me about this, I would have said, well, you know, I hope that there's ratchets in the hips and there's ratchets in the knees, but the balance of this figure, like I said, it feels more like a SH Figuarts or a Figma. it doesn't feel like it needs a ratchet. And you know, I always say put ratchets on it, but this has the right balance and right weight of a figure this size where I don't think it needs it. I wanted to make sure I did size comparisons here, especially of a number of different sizes, because I've seen some debate on whether or not he was a leader or a Voyager, and he's between the two, as you can see, but I feel like he's a bit closer to the Voyager. I think he's kind of like an old school Voyager, like a full Voyager, as I like to call it. But he still fits in well with the Chug line. Like, I like him being a bit taller than the normal Voyagers, so I think that works. Alright, let's get transforming. So you rotate these down, and then you rotate the thighs, well, not rotate, just slide the thighs out, similar to Quake Wave, if you recall, just a bit. You can pull these down here, and then this back section comes out from this blue bit is like a casing, and you can rock it down and put it, you know, tab it out. Now it is a tight little connection here that you got to work it out from. Just takes a little bit of fiddling. And there you go. There. Then you want to come to the feet, rotate this whole piece down, flip this open, and then this tab here goes into that slot, and it kind of squares off. Like that. Same on this side. Open her up, open her up. There. Good grief. That was challenging, but I got it. And then you want to tab these together, so tab slot. And these interlock as well down here. Done and done. Next, arm up, rock this whole chest up, and then rotate 180 degrees. And you can see that that starts to put things in order on this side. Now we need to solidify the cab to the base here. So take this, wrap it around, and we want to plug this into that, so to speak. Good. So that's good. To the front, we can pull this open, pull these pieces out. Now, these are on double hinges, and I will say that this space here doesn't allow for a whole lot of wiggle room. You kind of got to get it just right, and that's how it should look. And even going back, you'll find that you kind of got to manipulate it and wiggle it just the right way, so to speak, in order to make it work. This part is the most challenging. Far from impossible, but there's one point the instructions could have been a bit more clear about, so we're going to try to be as clear about it as we can right now. Rotate the forearm 90 degrees so that the silver paint here is facing you. Then bring this down. Use this armature here where this ball joint is. Now you see the armature comes out. What you need is to rotate that down. Can you see right there? It was out to the side and now it's down. Then you can manipulate it so that this tab here goes into that slot, and the armature has to be down in order for it to reach. And I found that this part comes unpegged, but just so you know. Then there's a hinge here at the bicep, so we want to split that there, fold this piece around, and then this piece is going to tuck inside. Now what we need to do is there's a tab here that you can see that goes into there, and there may be one other place. That might be it. And then there's something we can solidify it with after that. So that comes around and down, and then we want to tab it in. There's a better view of it right there. And that's all good. Now, you can take this gas can and rotate this around to the front. That just better stabilizes it. Take this sliding piece here, which I did initially think was too loose, but it is tensioned at the ends. So when you go to move it, it's nice and loose, because that's what I hate about sliding joints. So it's nice and loose, and then when you get to the end, it just has a little bit more tension. So that's nice. And you can close that up there. Let's do it again. So we're looking at the shoulder. We're going to change this so that the silver is facing us. We're going to use this armature here, and we're going to untab that. We're going to rotate on that ball joint so that the armature is facing downward. And then we're going to tab that into that, and while I can't speak and do this at the same time. What's going on with me? You see why my brain just froze up? The second one, because you got everything kind of more locked in place, isn't as forgiving. There. No big deal. And that's tabbed in there at the bottom. We're going to use our gas can to kind of solidify that connection. Our piece here in the back self-corrected, so that's re-tabbed in. That's good. We're going to slide our window section back and tab that in here. And that's all. That's the arms, and that's the most challenging part of this. So the last thing we want to do is take this. This is on a double hinge. Now, I can't tell in the instructions that this is supposed to tab into there. It seems like it should, but I imagine that that's a matter of having everything lined up perfectly, and I'm not sure that we do. So we're not going to fight with it too much. But you can see, and I'm not even sure if that is the intention. It just seems like it should. So I'll mess with that off camera and see if I can't get it in there. And then this piece just folds up, and that tabs in into there, and it should click. Yeah. Take his accessory, fold this piece down, slide this piece in, fold this piece down and around to grab the handle, and then this comes down to 90 degrees while this forms the little top bit, and then you got tab, slot, and these go in there. The tabs anyway are interlocking inside of there, and that's it. And of course you can add on his signature smokestacks, I forgot to mention. By plugging these in, you can have the blades out. And I think you can have them in also, or in, whichever you prefer. And that's him. Rolls fine, even on the little mat here. It's Optimus-ish, you know? Like, they're not going for G1, and that does, like, it messes with my mind a bit, but it's fairly effective at being a truck. It's just not really the truck that I know. The transformation is pretty fun to get there, though, so that's a bonus. Size comparison-wise, real quick, there he is next to Tiger Trax, so he's about the same size as Tiger Trax in terms of length. He's a bit longer, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, I like the translucent, with the blue tint to it. Headlights look good. Details, I can't get these gas cans to go right. I'm sure I could if I sat here and messed with it for a while, but I think it still serves the purpose. I'm not even sure if they're supposed to go in there. It seems like they should, but it's just a matter of having everything lined up quite right, and I'm guessing I don't, but I think you still get the point. Final thoughts wise, let's do the negatives and get those out of the way. There's a couple pieces I feel like could move a little smoother. Where the foot connects into the calf, I feel like that could be a little bit smoother, and also the reverse pieces that move out on a double hinge, these pieces here, it's a really, there's not, like I said, there's not much wiggle room, there's not much forgiveness in there. So that would have been appreciated if they could have made that move a bit smoother. Those are two things I feel like really need to be noted in terms of being objective. The other things that I will note is that because it plays so much like an action figure, there are a couple things, like I feel like it could have used a double ball peg, head to neck, like even if it had a neck piece where it sat the head up a little higher, you know, just a little bit in order to give you that play. But because of the engineering of it all, I see why they didn't do it. And also because of the action figure element, once again, and how well it cleans up, these do stand out to me a bit. Like, it's a small thing, but I do feel like they stand out just a taste. And objective-wise, I think that's it. I mean, even that little piece on the forearm is kind of a subjective thing. But I want to say that I don't care for this. I don't care for this accessory. I don't think it looks much like a gun. I don't even particularly like that type of roof style. So theoretically, I could just remove this and be fine, but it does look a little unfinished in truck mode without it, I must admit. The good news is, accessory-wise, it has that slot for you to put the gun in, so you can put whatever gun in it you want. It's just that this doesn't, it's not even, like, I wish it looked more like our standard Optimus gun that we're used to seeing, but even that it doesn't, it just doesn't look much like a gun at all. And I get what they were trying to do in terms of, you know, encompassing it into the final piece, but you know, it still needs to work both ways, and I feel like it works very much more so for the truck and less for the robot, whereas this piece works overall better for the robot and less for the truck. Now let's talk about the positives, because there are plenty to boot. The paint, where it is applied, it's applied well, and there's a fair bit of it throughout. It's not a lot, but it's fair, and it's throughout. It's definitely acceptable. There's even, like we talked about, paint applied to places where you wouldn't necessarily see paint on most figures, like on translucent pieces or on reverse side of transformation pieces. The transformation is pretty fun. Couple little bumps in the road, little hiccups in the road, but I feel like Maketoys stuff a lot of times can be fairly frustrating when you're transforming it. Like, especially their Chrome Dome, like, instantly comes to mind. But this one is a lot more intuitive, and it's also a lot more enjoyable kind of in general. The materials are, I would say, on par with what you've come to expect from their more like chuggish scaled stuff, like their Defensor or Green Giant, stuff like that. Like, it feels like that. There's not a lot of ratchets and stuff like that, but it doesn't really feel like it. And that's what really needs to come across here, is that this feels a lot more like an action figure than what I'm used to in terms of Transformers. But you know what? It's pretty cool. I recently, and I think it's third party has ultimately brought me down this road, but like gotten into SH Figuarts and Figma and stuff like that. Some pretty impressive stuff. So it's really opened my mind to a lot of different action figure type stuff that I wasn't necessarily used to growing up in a country that's mainly dominated by Hasbro, Mattel, and, you know, Kenner in my time. And this is pretty cool the way it comes across as an action figure. Now, I spoke to them because I was like, look, here's the thing. I got scared at first that they were gonna take time away from my loves.
You're talking about us, right?
Yes?
You're skeleton.
But they assured me that that's not the case. They assured me that they'll definitely still be working heavily on the remaster series, and that made me feel much more secure in terms of opening my heart to this. But I asked them what their intention was with this line, because I got some first impressions from it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you guys what they told me, and then I'm going to tell you what I got from it. So they told me that they wanted to have a line that gave their designers a lot more freedom, where they didn't have to be slavish to a particular design, whether that design be G1 or, you know, a Studio Ox or a video game or whatever. They wanted to give their creative people a outlet to create whatever they want and to reimagine these characters however they wanted. And I think that is pretty cool. I can definitely understand that from an artist perspective, being as though I dabble a little bit myself. I asked them, like, I said, would you say that this is more so a passion project? And they said definitely along those lines, where it's it's something that they've always wanted to do, and now they have the opportunity to do it, I guess, with the amount of success they've had. So that's nice to be able to allot that opportunity. Now, what I got away from it, from just messing with it, was that the action figure was the intent here, and then the bonus was that it transformed. And I feel like that isn't always the case. I feel like most of the time, like, and I think most people that have a wide variety of figures know, like, there's like what I consider to be the top quality masterpiece scaled Transformer toys makers. Your Maketoys, your MMCs, your Fans Toys. They are all great and they feel great, but they don't play in a figure or like a figure in the same way that a Figuarts or a Figma figure does. It's just not the same. But this feels a lot more along those lines. Now, my criticism to go along with that is that, a little bit extra head articulation and a little bit extra ab crunch, reverse ab crunch, where he could lean backwards would have helped a lot. And that's really it, because outside of that, it feels exactly like what they were trying to accomplish. Now, what I will also say is that where does he fit in your collection? Does he fit in your Masterpiece collection? No, he doesn't, and he's not intended to, and I get that. I will say that for a Chug collection, your only real options for a Prime are some of Hasbro's latest offerings, which haven't been for me, and I did mess around with the Combiner Wars one, and I know that's not for me. Or the old classics, and some people like that, and that's fine. The old classics and this one both share this issue for me, this guy much less so than the old classics one, but I get it. But in my opinion, it really comes down to, I think, this guy and the knockoff MP10 that's coming, that's like a Voyager size, and not knock him, so to speak, what anybody else does, but me personally, I try not to do knockoffs. Only knockoffs I've ever had in my collection have been by mistake, and then one time I experimented, but it was in college, and I don't want to talk about it. For the most part, I try to stay away from knockoffs, and I think that this is a much more valid option for a Chug. And you could make the argument that a MP10 looking Voyager for your Chug shelf won't fit in, because most Chug toys don't look slavishly G1, and MP10 does. And I feel like this guy would be a good fit there. The action figure element is top notch. The paint, where it is applied well. It's not applied scarcely, but it's not, it doesn't have the masterpiece kind of paint that I like to see with the finishes and all that. It doesn't have that, but it's not trying to fit that motif, so I get it. Transformation is overall an enjoyable and intuitive experience, so I'm on board with that as well. The materials are on par, and it's from a reputable company. So do I recommend it for your Chug shelf for an Optimus Prime representation? Absolutely. If you're an Optimus Prime fan and you just like to get all the good Optimus Primes, I know he's a focus character for a lot of people, I absolutely recommend it. If you have a Masterpiece shelf and you want an Optimus Prime for your Masterpiece shelf, this isn't the one, and it's not trying to be. So I think they've made a good product. They've assured me that Megatron is coming. They've assured me that not every character mentioned in their book is coming, but we know that Megatron and I think Bumblebee are coming. I'm interested to see what this line does. I can definitely appreciate a passion project, even if it's not the direction my collection is going. I can objectively say it's a well-made piece. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Till next time, take care.